Population and Age Structure Analysis of the Netherlands by Keith Blake. Alright, so this is the population pyramid for the Netherlands for 2012. I'll just point out a few things real quick and then I'll go more into depth later, but you can see that the rate of population growth has been slowly decreasing over time. And you can also see that about 40 to 50 years ago there was a baby boom in the Netherlands. And then at the very top, if you'll notice that there are more females than males still living, this is due to the occurrence of World War I about 100 years ago. And so that's what caused there to be more females than males. But I'll come back to this later and go more in depth. That was just a quick overview of the population pyramid for the Netherlands. Alright, so for part B, question A, I would consider the Netherlands a developed country, and there's a couple reasons I say this. One of the main reasons is that they have a lot of natural gas within the Netherlands as well as petroleum, so this generates a lot of jobs for them, mining the natural gas, mining the petroleum, as well as refining the petroleum. And then another reason would be that they have 451 kilometers of coasts, which means that they have a lot of space for shipping ports and a lot of room to interact with other countries, a lot of opportunities for trade. And then the third reason would be that there's a lot of tourism within the Netherlands, specifically in places such as Amsterdam, which generates a lot of income for the country itself. So for part B, question 2, as I was saying earlier, the females do have a slightly higher margin at the top of the pyramid. And this is because World War I was going on at the time, and the Netherlands had a somewhat unusual involvement in World War I because they have so many ports that were so important to the world, but at the same time, the Allies didn't want the Axis powers to be able to get supplies through these ports, so they cut off all of the access. And although the Netherlands was supposed to be neutral, this kind of sent them towards Germany because the Allies were cutting off their ports. So with all of this, there was a lot of tension and there wasn't much reproduction going on. And also, although they weren't supposed to be fighting, younger men would attempt to join the fights if at all possible. So there was it was not a very good time for population growth because of all the problems going on within the world. And so, but at the same time, there were men dying in this war, so that is why the female population is still slightly higher than the male population at the top of the pyramid. So for part B, question 3, a main factor that would really decrease the population would be a lack of the natural resources, mainly the natural gas and petroleum that the Netherlands has. They have a lot of natural gas, which contributes a lot to the economy and brings in a lot of jobs. And they don't consume anywhere near all of the natural gas that they are producing. So it also creates it brings in a lot of money for the country. And with oil, they are consuming a lot more than they're producing, but they are still producing a pretty good amount for such a small country. And that's also creating a lot of jobs for the people. And without these two big industries in the Netherlands, there would be a lot of people out of work that wouldn't be able to support themselves or their families, and it would definitely decrease the population. So another factor that would change the shape of the pyramid and make the population a lot smaller would be a lack of good transportation. Like right now they have 27 airports in such a small country and tons of roadways, almost 140,000 kilometers, as well as railways. And the Netherlands is a big place for tourism. They have a lot of places called hostels where tourists can stay cheap, and Amsterdam is a big place where people go, as well as all of the beaches on their 451 kilometers of coastline. So without this transportation to get there, if they didn't have all these airports for people to fly into and all these roads for people to, take buses or drive around and tour Europe, they would be missing out on a lot of money that the people of the Netherlands rely on, because a lot of people just make money from these tourists in these big cities, and they're able to support themselves and their families that way. and if they didn't have this tourism industry within the Netherlands, they wouldn't be able to support themselves, they wouldn't be able to support their families, and as a result, they wouldn't be able to have as many kids. So it would cause the pyramid to be slimmed down, especially towards the bottom with all these people, all the all of the population growth that's happening right now. It wouldn't have affected it as much maybe 40 or 50 years ago with the baby boom and all that stuff, because there wasn't as much tourism happening back then. But today it's become a very large industry for the Netherlands, and it would have a much larger effect. For part B, question 4, 17.2% of the population has yet to reach the childbearing age for 2012. And this means that the country is still going to grow, but it's not a very large percentage of it's a large percentage, but it's not too large of a percentage. So the country isn't going to grow that quickly. As you can see on this diagram, it's been slowly going down, the amount or the population growth rate, and right now it's only about 0.452%, which is it's not a very large amount. It's not too small, but it is pretty small compared to other developed countries such as the US, which has a 0.9% growth rate. So the Netherlands, although it's growing pretty slowly, and that is in large part due to the 17.2% not having reached childbearing age, which is a relatively small number. Alright, so for part B, question 5, the country is not currently in a baby boom. As I just said for the previous question, it's growing pretty slowly. There's only 1.76 children being born per woman right now, which is not very much. And if you compare it on this graph to people that are in between their 40s, 50s, even 60s, when the baby boom happened in the Netherlands, the population is growing a lot slower, and it's nowhere near at the height that it was back then. And back then, it caused a lot of effects. There was an influx in like labor and construction jobs, which meant that a lot of people were out of work, and that wouldn't really be a good idea right now, and it would put a lot of stress on the economy. And plus, people just aren't really in a rush to reproduce. So as a result of that, the population is growing slower, and they are not currently in a baby boom.